So thank you for jumping on this call anyway,
Okay.
Carwyn. And just for anybody listening, if you just want to introduce yourself briefly.
So I can have this conversation with two hats on. I don't know which one you want, but so I'm both of them. So I'm the digital innovation manager at M-SParc, M-SParc, which is a part of Bangor University, and then also co-founder of North Wales Tech, the local tech voluntary sort of tech community that's up here in North Wales, and that's got about 1,000 people across all 5 counties and into the northwest as well. So a good feel for what's happening in the tech sector, hopefully, if I'm doing it right.
I think it's fair to say if you don't know who it is that's in the kind of North Wales tech ecosystem, then I don't know who does. And just for any listeners who don't know who I am, my name's Anna, and I'm the CEO and founder of Explorer.com, the online marketplace for self-storage. So thank you for joining me today, Carwyn. I just wanted to for us to have a really casual chat because being a tech startup in North Wales, as you well know, in the wonderful science park that is M-SParc as well on the Isle of Anglesey. What we find quite often is that when we go beyond that sort of North Wales area and talk to, let's say, a network down in London, or, you know, if I was at an investor networking event in Manchester the other week, for example, and you say that you're a tech startup in Anglesey, there's almost like a bit of a, oh, right, kind of thing, like, what actually business happens over there, tech happens over there? I think like they still think we're on dial-up or something. Like, what's your take on that?
Oh, very much so. I mean, when I first moved back into the area, one of the things I thought I would miss, I did miss because I hadn't found it back then, was that tech ecosystem of living in a big city. So I lived in Edinburgh for a decade, and that sort of hustle and bustle of, you know, there's always somebody willing to catch up of an evening, to talk about tech and come up with crazy ideas. And one of the reasons I started to put North Wales Tech was initially thinking, you know, that we don't have that kind of thing in North Wales. We need to create one. And M-SParc in many respects is sort of here to sort of foster that as well. But it turned out that, you know, you turn over every stone, you get involved and go out there, and you find loads of examples all over the place of little, you know, startup companies in the digital space, tech sector, or people working remotely for you know, very big companies in rural areas. Even more so past post-pandemic, a lot of people have moved back into these regions because they love the way of life, the countryside. They used to come here on holiday, whatever, already, so they've just moved back. So it's always been here, but it's maybe not been connected up. People didn't know each other. So that's the key thing that I look to do with the tech community is, once I figured out actually there is a lot here, it's about connecting it all up and just introducing people to each other and creating that community. And then M-SParc is the embodiment of that. So we've got a physical building here now with 50 tenants in it, about 20 to 30 virtual tenants. So that's sort of the real tech business side of this in one place with an awful lot of activity in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the field in Gaerwen.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? As you say, especially since COVID, I think certainly for developers, a lot of them now expect to be able to work remotely from wherever they want, and that whole sort of digital nomad lifestyle has evolved. So people are sat on a beach in Bali, potentially coding, and so why not North Wales as well? And like we had that event over at Bangor Uni a few months ago with one of the senior guys from Google who lives in Ripon, I think, is it? And I know when we first met just a few years ago, and you were saying to me about some of these companies, and they had bases here, and they were like supplying Microsoft and Google with certain components, and I was just kind of, I was just shocked, really. I just didn't expect.
I think it's not unique to North Wales. You know, I think I've heard of clusters in Devon, and it's around the world that you do get these tech companies because it's digital. You know, most of our stuff runs in the cloud these days. If you've got a laptop and an internet connection, you can get to work and get at it. So why not do that somewhere, inspiring and stunning to live? Don't get me wrong, the hustle and bustle of the city is fantastic. Love going there, and that's got a place too. But a lot of what you do as a developer is head down focus with your team to come up with whatever the solution is for the business you're working on. And that you can do anywhere. And I think there's a lot to be said for so these more rural areas like where we are here, because they give you a different quality of life. You can go out and go swimming in the evening in the sea or across a lake or walk. I know developers that they'll finish at 4 o'clock and they run up to the top of Snowdon and come back down again. Or a company I was in a few years ago, over the lunch break, my colleague could swam across Llyn Padarn, across the lake. That kind of thing is doable. And it put him in a wonderful frame of mind, and he was very productive that afternoon. So, why not? Why not?
No, absolutely. And especially with developing, you are very much behind a screen, aren't you? So it's especially important to get out from behind that. And I think before I move on, I'm sure I read somewhere an article about how even Silicon Valley is kind of struggling with this challenge now of seeing their human resources wanting to move out beyond. I mean, I expect the cost of living in Silicon Valley is just phenomenal. So I mean, even London has seen a lot of its young professionals move to the likes of Manchester and things. So.
It's strange. It kind of happens both ways. Some that kind of youngsters want to move to the big city. A lot of them gravitate that way to go to study and so forth. That's not going to change, but you do get it the other way around as well. I know of companies that have moved from big cities because of the competition for talent, and that becomes an issue, or just the cost of setting up base in the city. So looking for areas, within convenient travel time to the cities, that's useful to have. And we're quite handy here. We're fairly easy to get to, like Manchester and London from North Wales, so those opportunities are still there without too much difficulty. But you don't have to be there to do it. The other thing I'd say is the culture you get outside the cities is very different as well. So that being able to get together and do something as a team out in the wilderness is something you can do here fairly easily, which is ironic because that kind of characteristic team building activity is take your staff to the middle of nowhere, make them run through a field of mud, and take them back to the office in the city. Well, we can just do that anytime.
That's not a big reward, do you? Just go and do it at lunchtime. Oh, absolutely. And then just moving on then, so you see quite a few tech startups coming through North Wales and certainly in the M-SParc ecosystem. Do you think it's important for tech startups to be part of that kind of wider ecosystem?
Critical, absolutely critical. To find the other people you need to build a business, that's even before you get to developers. To find the team in the digital space to build your product, you're going to need those people around you. I think most of the companies that I've come across, I think the literature would back this up, is you need about a handful of people to get that company really going in terms of building your sales, building the development of the businesses. They've got the investment and that side of things to think about, customer experience and interacting with the customers, let alone building it. You need that group of diverse people to build what will be a functional unit for your business. So you've got to be part of not just one ecosystem, probably numerous. The investment side, your actual customer base, as well as that developer ecosystem. But once you get to the right place to build that team, you need to find the right kind of people for a startup. It's not just about finding people straight out of courses. You need people that will have some experience to work alongside people that have got less experience to nurture and build that team. Startups don't always have the funding to secure top tier senior developers. So you need to put that environment in place to get all of the things you need from your development team, and that's that ecosystem you get it from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like that's certainly one of the things that we've benefited from, both from being in M-SParc and also being connected to other founders in the North Wales sort of community, if you like, as you say, going back to that culture of being in a more rural area. There is very much that kind of spirit of, right, what can I do to help you? This is what I've done. Who can I introduce you to? And, you know, people are always happy to help and keen to help as well, because you want to see other founders in that community do well. So no, I think even in the last sort of 3 or 4 years that I've seen it, I've seen that change a lot. And it's good to see like other startup businesses having that same kind of support and it going from strength to strength. On the startup thing again, so sorry, I'm taking you away from your dev expertise, but on the startup thing, again, you, I'm sure, meet a lot of founders. Do you notice any particular trends among founders and their kind of why? So like there's the book Start With Why, and I mean,
I think
try and be completely impartial in this as a founder myself. I'll take it personally.
I think the ones that really get it for me, ironically, I think this is true from any scale of business I come across. I was at a very large company's research facility not that long ago, and there's a key message. You know, one of the first things I said is start with why. It's what's the purpose of what you're doing, what problem are you trying to solve, and the founders that stand out, the ones that have identified that itch to scratch. They found the real thing that they can understand, right? Why is nobody solving this? It could be a personal thing, it's something that they've observed, whatever it is. That's where it starts. And the next step is, right, how can we solve it? And they're always questioning, is this actually solving the problem? Is this actually something that, you know, that customer base wants, needs, is you know, clambering over each other to get at? If you've got it right, you will have found something people want to buy. So it's all about that product market fit. It's understanding, have I got a good idea? Can I build something to actually solve it? Sometimes the answer is no. Can I put it into a package product that they can then consume, purchase, buy? Because I've said, you know, in some cases you can get it all right, but you can't find the right delivery vehicle to put it into a product to deliver. You got a good idea, it needs to be solved, but you can't package it up into a way that they can consume it. So it's the people, the ones that understand those elements. So it's not just the idea. You've got to build it into something that people can understand. You've got to present it in such a way that they can actually use it, and then follow it up with that customer support to make sure that they can carry on using it afterwards. It's that sort of obsessive nature of, you know, is this actually solving the problem? It's always coming back to, is it really getting to what it should, the impact that you want to do? That's the pattern.
That word definitely rings true. It is obsessive. You just become so obsessed on that customer experience, on that user experience. And I think like one of the great books that you recommended to me was Inspired, which was a lot around that sort of product and, you know, are you really addressing the problem? I think as a founder, you are naturally inspired by all the solutions and the opportunities and the potential. And I think my very nature is like that anyway, but you've really got to fall in love with the problem first and understand it in order to in any way have any attempt at kind of answering that and building something that answers that. And yeah, that's way more.
I think that's the key thing. It's falling in love with the problem, not the solution, because the problem will always be the same. You might pivot, you might pick a different problem, but the risk is that you focus too much on the product and what you think it should be. You know, it's got to still solve the issue. It's got to be something that people want, and you've got to find the right vehicle to deliver it as well. Because, you know, if you get the structure, the shape, pricing, whatever it's wrong, it might solve the problem. But if it's not affordable, if it doesn't fit the market, and it might be regulatory constraints, whatever it is, you've got to make it, you know, fit what you're trying to deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, Carwyn, we've talked about in the past, certainly with me, with my building surveying kind of background, is how tech has filtered its way through non-tech aspects of life. So in our case, self-storage is very much, it's a physical industry. We can't get away from the fact that it is people storing their physical things in a physical space in a regional location. And so there is, I think sometimes we encounter almost an attitude of, well, like, we don't really need tech for that. What would you say to that kind of approach?
Just look at everything everybody does these days. You know, if I want to buy anything, or if anybody is looking to buy something, 9 times out of 10, where do they start? In some cases, you know, they'll pop to the shop or whatever, have a look around, browse, and spot something, and it's that. But if you know what you want, if you know what you really need, so I need to, you know, in your case, store something, you're probably going to start these days in your hand with a phone, because you may know something about it already, you may know nothing about it, but that sort of fountain of information, unfortunately or fortunately, depending how you look at it, is in your hand, and that means digital. You know, if the way, I guess, social media search engines have driven this as well, you know, you used to look up the yellow pages for that answer. Where do I find whatever it might be? And you get the big yellow book out and you flick through it and you find it.
Yeah,
that's not there anymore. So it's no different. So you know, back then, if you weren't in the yellow pages, you weren't visible. It's the modern day. Ironically, the early days of the internet, that sort of directory where everything used to live, was called the yellow pages. It was a digital yellow pages.
Oh, right.
So it's where it was acknowledged then. So, you know, if you want to be seen, you have to be digital.
Yeah.
If you want to be convenient these days, you know, thinking of the likes of Airbnb and you know, booking your holidays, booking your transport, whatever it might be, yes, you'll go online. But the next question is, which one makes my life and experience easier, quickest, cheapest, whatever it is. So I don't think it's a question anymore. You just have to.
Yeah, and I think it's almost undervalued because so much of what we do now in life is tech enabled, whether we even consciously think about it or not. Like, the most simple of thing can be driven by a tech component, maybe not the full sort of user journey from start to finish, but certainly elements of it. And I think that is the best technology, in my opinion. Is the best technology is the ones that you barely even feel like you have engaged with technology, enabled, say, your life to be easier.
Something you said there rings true. So I'm a very technical person. I'm a proper techie. The things that interest me most are actually the things that are least technical. If you start with the technology, you generally will find it hard to solve the problem. It's not always the case. Sometimes the technology is a product in itself, but generally you're better off starting with the problem and then trying to figure out, right, of this bag of tools of technology I have, which combination is going to solve the problem best. So I'm a big advocate for not starting with technology. It's just a bunch of tools. You just pick the right one, you know.
Now more than ever, the tools that are at your disposal are just like phenomenal. I mean, when we look at the way that just one thing, ChatGPT, has radicalized so many touch points, so much about how we do business in the space of, when was it the last version? Like November?
The public version is a few months. Interestingly, the technology behind that is quite a few years old, decades, some of it, to be honest. But again, the key thing, they put it in a form that people could consume. The stuff behind it's been around for decades, but the key thing was putting it in a form that people could easily consume. So that's the sort of the digital as a product. That's a key part of that. I was something else. That you're working in a physical space with a self-storage. The obvious part there is that you look at the consumers of the service, the the ability to look for that self-storage on one side. The really interesting parts, perhaps, are the other side, is how do you make the experience for those with the storage easier? Because that is the bit that's dealing with the physical. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing that we keep harping on about, whether people are listening to us or not. It is that we are more than just this marketplace, or God forbid, somebody calls us a comparison site, something, because like it is just so much more than that. I mean, yes, it is a platform where the customers can find what's most convenient, what's the best value for them. Sorry, I'm just doing my pitch here. What's the best value, what's most convenient, at what price? I mean, that's an element of it, but we know the customer makes a decision as a balance of those things. But then it's also like how that customer experience that they have wouldn't happen if we didn't have the back end side of things, the storage operator dashboard, and then also make it really easy for them to interface with our technology, and also continue to make it easier, so that we're not another step in the process that they're having to accommodate for us, that we can just kind of integrate seamlessly.
One of the things is when I'm speaking to companies that maybe not sort of digital first, one of the key things that I just ask them is, tell me about the bits that are pain in the neck, take a lot of time, annoy you. What are the bits that irritate you about day-to-day business? They cost you whatever they might be. They're irritating, cost lots of money, whatever they. Those are typically the first places to look for opportunities on the digital side, because they're the ones that if you can automate them, if you can make that monotonous task go away to a certain extent, or you're not having to put a person in charge of it, that person's freed up to do something far more interesting. And that's the way technology should be used. It's enabling people to do the things that they're good at, so that technology can do the bit that it's better at. And then similarly, the other thing I think that I would advocate for is look at the whole life cycle of the business. Every element of how you interact with your customer, how they interact with their customers, how you interact with your suppliers, mapping out their entire interaction of how your business works and operates, everything. And then for each one of those interactions, ask, right, can I make that better by throwing some technology at it and chipping away at that? And that's how you end up with a full-blown digital transformation. It's not just picking out one bit and doing it well. It's looking across the board, strategically picking out the ones that are, low-hanging fruit, most return on investment, whatever they might be, and just mapping it out. And then you'll end up with a good digital solution.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're aiming for. And I think there's always a case for, at any point in your business journey, to also ask yourself, just because we can do it, does it mean that we should? Is the market ready for it? Are our customers ready for it? Because it's quite funny, really. I mean, some of the examples of Explorage design, if you like, where we've tinkered around and we're like, oh, we could make this button do this, and it's like, well, yeah, we could, and it looks quite cool, but actually, is that just going to like stop people in their tracks and go, what is this? Why is that button just spun around? And anything that's kind of a barrier, like, we always have to then put our head on of, like, the customer just needs self-storage and they want to book it quickly. They're not here looking for a design experience as such. They just want it to be easy and familiar and feel, safe and trustworthy. So it's always kind of putting that, as you say, very human hat on. Well, we are human, but it's just remembering that first more than anything else.
Yeah. There's a related field. Digital is broadened to mean so many things, and people gravitate towards the technical, the code, the apps, things like this. But the other bit that goes hand in hand with it is user-centered design, human-centered design, user experience. These are the kind of terms used to describe that. It's how the technology interacts with the person. That's the first part. And then the second part I'd add is to achieve the purpose. And when you get that balance right, then you've got a good experience. Yes, if you've got enough people that want the shiny button, and they really want the shiny button, they tell you they want the shiny button, go for it. Do the user research, prove that they need it, because the danger is it'll be a crazy idea that somebody comes up with, and they think it's what they want, but until you validate it with your users, it's purely theory. So user testing, and what they goes back to the purpose. What are you actually trying to do? I just want to book some storage or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, big question for you then to round this off. How do you see the future of tech evolving?
That's an interesting one. I think this AI wave has got some real legs behind it. There's things becoming possible now. They've been promised for a long time. They're starting to really show that they're affordable, achievable with the AI space. So that kind of the way people interact with their technology will continue to evolve. If you think back a handful of years, we started speaking to speakers as opposed to typing things in.
Yeah.
That maybe didn't deliver what we anticipated. It's not quite as Star Trek like as people thought or hoped for. But I think with this AI coming along, I think that's the sort of you won't be looking at screens. Hopefully, that's a benefit here. You might not need to look at screens as much anymore. You might be able to just talk to your technology and say, I'm looking. I want to book a holiday. I want to book some storage. Where's the closest one? And just do it. That element. So do more of an assistance point of view. And then the other thing I suggest is, hopefully it'll get out of the way more. That the promise of ubiquitous computing, it's sort of hidden away. It's just helping you go about your daily business, your daily life. It's sort of second nature. It's like a paper or pencil. It's just something you just pick up and do it. You don't think, oh, I'm using a piece of technology. The more it's sort of not something you think about, it's just convenient, useful. That to me is technology serving its purpose.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. I mean, it's
helping.
It's really interesting you say that, because I think even like when I've thought about it, and I didn't realize that was the term for it, ubiquitous technology, where maybe in 20 years time we'll sit back and laugh, but every time we thought that we wanted to type something out or send an email, we'd sit at a desk, turn a laptop on, or pick up a phone, open up emails and type it in. Like that might almost be as funny in 20 years time as now when we look back to the days when dial-up was invented and you'd sit in front of like a huge computer and hear that thing going like trying to connect to the internet for however long. I mean, and that's right.
The Yellow Pages example is a good one. Not that long ago, within my lifetime, but where do I find this within 10, 20 miles or whatever it is, and you get this big yellow book out about this thick, and then you'd be flicking through it trying to understand how the index worked and and then it would take you ages to find the thing, and then you've got to which one's any good, and you'd be literally phoning them up one by one to figure out, do they still exist, all these kinds of things. and now I can just press a button and talk to my phone, and it gives me it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's that Star Trek analogy is the best one. The Captain Picard walks onto the deck and says, "Computer, can you tell me this?" And it gives him the right answer. When that thing, that's the key thing. When it's the right answer coming out.
It's not the sorry, I can't find a pirate with a wooden leg in your local area. It's like, no, that's not what I was asking.
And when it can, my little one tries to speak to Google Assistant and all these things, and it doesn't quite understand, and accents, different people that are learning languages, all those things. We've still got a long way to go to reach that kind of, that level of sci-fi. It just works. It gets the right answer, understands everybody, all that accessibility, diversity aspect that you need to bring into that kind of quality of ubiquitous computing as well. Affordability, check that in there as well. All those elements. That's when it really. That's where I hope it goes anyway.
Good, exciting. Well, it's exciting to be part of it as well. So
there's plenty to do. That's the cool bit. There's plenty of stuff to get up to play with and try out.
Well, thank you very much, Carwyn. I really enjoyed our chat. I'll catch up with you again soon.
Just